Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual college fair for all Illinois students. We're super excited to have you all here for this session this afternoon. We have some wonderful representatives here to tell you a little bit more about the college process. But before I pass things on over to them, I want to make sure that you know how to ask them questions throughout the session. And so you'll see a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to submit your questions through that Q&A at any point during this afternoon's session. Note that your camera and your microphone are turned off, and they'll be turned off for the remainder of the session. So really that Q&A is the best way to interact with everyone. I do want to remind you all that there are additional sessions that you can sign up for and check out at www.iacac.org, and that a recording of this session will be available within the next few days at that same URL. And so with that, we'll go ahead and kick things off with our session, and I'll pass things off to our wonderful presenters.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our panel for the IACAC Virtual College Exploration. My name is Ryan Howard, and I am a transfer admissions counselor for Eastern Illinois University. We're very excited that you're able to join us for our discussion about things you didn't know about the college search process, and we will be discussing topics that can relate and benefit to all persons involved in assisting a student, looking into colleges, and things that can help the students themselves as well. These topics are going to benefit everybody from a high school student to community college students to contemporary or non-traditional students, basically anybody looking to further their education and hopefully obtain a bachelor's degree or a degree from a four-year institution. This is also going to benefit any high school counselors, community college representatives, or four-year university reps as well, talking about collaboration strategies and things like that. So we'll go ahead and get started. To preview what this is going to consist of, I do have our main points up here. Answering questions students do not know to ask, understanding partnerships between high school counselors, community college representatives, and university admissions counselors, the college search process in general, different types of degrees that you could earn throughout the entire college process, four-year enrollment processes, and differences between contemporary students and traditional students. All right, so the people that we have today, as I said, my name is Ryan Howard, and I'm a transfer admissions counselor from Eastern Illinois University. And I want to give our other presenters just a quick second to jump on and introduce themselves before they get to talking as well.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nick Sanders. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment at Parkland College in Champaign, Illinois.
And my name is Nissa Catton, and I am the Peoria Site Coordinator for Lincoln College's Accelerated Bridge to Education Program, also known as ABE.
All right, thanks, Nick. Thank you, Nissa. Again, we're so glad that you're able to join us for our panel. And we are going to go ahead and get things started with Nick talking about relationships with high school counselors and community college representatives.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So on this slide here, we'll kind of just go through all the points here that are on the slide. Ryan will kind of get those populated for us, but let's start with the basic things of dual credit. You hear that term often used over and over again by numerous educators and people in your community. And what dual credit simply is basically when students are taking classes while they're enrolled in high school and they take classes at a community college or another university, and those classes can be used for credit to graduate or earn an academic credential at both their high school and the college. That's all simply dual credit is. And so dual credit is a fairly recent trend in education, probably in the last 20 years has really taken steam and kind of grown. About 1 in 3 students in this country take dual credit courses. Essentially, the benefits of being a dual credit student is that, one, you get acclimated to college, you can explore your major of your choice, and then you can build your academic profile. So for dual credit students, they are taking classes in a college setting, building up their academic confidence, gaining credit toward a college degree, and they're kind of just doing what I call like a test drive of college to see academically what it takes to be successful in college, to see how to balance things because they're still gonna have to balance their high school career if they play sports, extracurricular activities, all things that normal college students do. So dual credit is an excellent testing ground to see how college really is, especially academically and then professionally as well. Ryan, could you go to the next slide for me, please? Okay, so when I talk to parents and students about dual credit, I always kind of mention some of these different factors that you see here on this slide. And once again, as Isabella talked about in the beginning of our presentation, this recording will be available sometime probably later this week. I'm not going to go over all the points here, but the ones I'm going to kind of highlight here are a couple of different things. The first one is to make sure you work with your high school counselor and somebody and an advisor at the community college. This is really important to make sure you're taking classes that are transferable, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But taking classes that can benefit you academically, making sure you're taking classes that are not too rigorous for you. I'll give you a good example. I do not like math. Can't stand math. Avoided math my whole college career if I had to. So therefore, it wouldn't make sense to me for somebody in my shoes to take a dual credit math class in college because I struggle with math. I don't like math. And so that's one of the things that I really encourage students to think about is make sure you're working with somebody to make sure that you take the right appropriate classes that have the appropriate rigor. At Parkland College, we have a whole department set up just to work with our early college students to make sure they're taking the right classes. Another thing that I tell students as well is that this class counts. It's on your college transcript. So if you're in high school, taking a dual credit class, and then maybe you decide to go to Lincoln or maybe you decide to go to Eastern, they're going to ask for that transcript. And on that transcript, it will have that dual credit class that you took. So you don't blow it off. Don't get a D or an F because that could affect the admissions decision. And Ryan will talk about that a little bit later as well. The last thing I would tell you to do as well is make sure that the classes transfer. Okay, so to provide context, at Parkland College, any class that has less than 100 is what we call a remedial course or a developmental course, meaning that class does not transfer. It's just used to get you up to college level. If I have a dual credit student who came to me and said, hey, I want to take this developmental class for whatever reason, I would tell them, don't take it if you plan to transfer because it's not going to transfer. The four-year schools and colleges and universities across this country will not take that class. They will not use it toward an academic credential whatsoever. So you want to take classes that could transfer. The whole purpose of dual credit is to make sure, once again, you get acclimated to college, but also it helps you get closer to an academic credential. So you only want to take classes that transfer. That's why it's really important that you work with somebody at the school, at the college you plan on taking dual credit at to make sure that those classes transfer. All right, the next slide, please, Ryan. All right, here it just shows some different types of degrees that are offered at the community college. And I just took kind of a snapshot. Obviously, certain community colleges have different degrees, but these are the basics that they have here. So what I did was, and you see in that third column, we talked about transferable classes, but you also want a transferable degree. So these are all the different certificates and credentials here, and that they transfer to a four-year institution. So you want to make sure, once again, that you're taking the appropriate degree. And as you can see here, associates in arts is great, associate in science is great, associate in engineering science is great, fine arts associate is great as well. You do have to be careful about what they call it AAS, which is an associate in applied science. Those are things like, for example, like HVAC or automotive or construction. Some institutions will take those classes that you've taken in that program and put it toward a degree, and some will not. Depending on the institution, they may be selected. They may say, hey, we'll take the English and the science class that you took as part of the graduation requirements, but we're not going to take the construction. Or we may take the English that you took, but maybe not some of the other things as well. So for students, it's really essential that you, if you're thinking about going to a certain institution and you're going to get an associate's degree, you ask that institution before you transfer and say, hey, would you mind doing an unofficial eval of my classes that I've taken there to see what will transfer? So you can know, like, hey, there's some classes that I need to take that will transfer in this class that I'm taking right now, and my community college won't. And so once again, with dual credit students, you really need to be proactive about the classes that you take and reaching out to the institution that you plan to transfer to. All right, the next slide, please. All right, so here's my do's and don'ts. And once again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the things, two things I'm going to highlight on here. The first thing is do your research about the institution that you plan to attend. See if your institution that you plan to transfer to is very transfer friendly. Some colleges are not, some are. all the public schools in Illinois have an agreement with the community colleges to take most or not all the college credit that you would do at a community college or that you would do for dual credit. So make sure that, that's not to say the privates won't, but typically the public universities in the state of Illinois do a great job about accepting those classes. Another thing is make sure you check on the modality of the course that you're taking. Quick story, I had a family member, they was gonna have their student take a calculus class. They didn't realize when they signed up for the class that it was a face-to-face class. They thought it was an online class. So the student kept being really mad about not taking attendance. The faculty member wasn't reaching out to him. Come to find out it was an online class and he needed to check in. I say that to say, when you get registered, make sure you check on the modality. Also, if it is a face-to-face class, let's say it's a face-to-face class on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. If the student doesn't drive or doesn't have a driver's license, somebody's going to be responsible for taking the student to class because you're paying full price. So make sure you check on the modality of the class and the time of the day of the class as well to make sure it's convenient for all the family members that will be involved in the student's education. All right, next slide. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Nisa Canton from Lincoln College.
Hey, Nick. Thanks so much. All right, so we're going to talk about pathways for non-traditional or contemporary students. So we're talking about when we're transferring from the community college, or there's several different options for being a non-traditional or contemporary student. So why is there two different words to describe this student? Well, generally students are considered non-traditional. And that's the term that we use to describe the students. However, that seems so exclusive, and it kind of eliminates what it makes these students feel as though they are a minority. And in this case, that's actually not the case. These type of students are the new normal. It's more frequent. There are actually 7 characteristics of non-traditional students. So instead, since it is the new normal, we like to call them contemporary. So those characteristics include delaying college enrollment for more than a year, long-term college part-time enrollment, so that can take you longer than the traditional 4 years to complete your degree if you're enrolled part-time. Full-time employment while enrolled, that's a student who plans on working full-time, classified as financially independent for financial aid purposes, living on your own, supporting yourself. These are considered contemporary students. You'll recognize that probably some of these traits are characteristics that you yourself currently hold or potentially may hold when you pursue your education in higher education. So things also like single parent status. If you are a parent, you have a dependent other than your spouse, or if you are lacking a traditional high school diploma, if you've earned your GED and you are currently completing your community college courses, even if you are on the traditional path, you are considered a contemporary student. So as I said, we're recognizing that this is not so much the minority, it is the majority of students nowadays are these contemporary students. Next slide, Ryan. All right, so let's talk about transferring outcomes. You heard Nick mention all of the different types of degrees. So we have several different types of associate degrees. I'm going to hit on the applied science degrees first because these are something that Nick pointed out. These are the depends on the institution. This is something that actually the ABE program that I work for, as well as a few select institutions, they offer what are called capstone type degrees. They're degrees specifically designed to take the entire Associate of Applied Science, which is a very focused technical degree. Some of the degree programs that Nick did not mention, like radiography, radiology, paralegal studies, these are also very specified degrees. And what the capstone type degrees, what they do is they allow you to broaden the second half of your bachelor's degree in order to round out that curriculum. So essentially what happens in a traditional format for an associate's degree, you're building the foundation with your general education courses, and then you're gradually narrowing in, oh, go on. There we go. And then you're gradually moving and narrowing in on your focus as you're working towards your junior and senior years at a four-year institution. With these capstone degrees, when you earn your Associate of Applied Science, you're already focusing in the front half your freshman and sophomore years, so that way you have more generalized upper-level general education courses that hit larger, broader areas to round out that bachelor's degree. So like I said, those type of degrees, those take the entire Associate of Applied Science and can apply it to one of those type of degrees. Otherwise, these type of degrees can be used towards some traditional degree programs, and I'll mention how that's possible in a later slide, but let's talk about arts and science. These are more transfer-friendly degree programs from the community college. These are things in a wide range: business management, sociology, criminal justice. It really just depends on your goals. And this is something that you want to have in mind when you're completing your associate's degree, what you want to focus on when you're completing one or the other. If it's more of a business management type degree or a healthcare field, you want to focus more on the science, because when you get into those upper level courses, they're going to require the math foundations and the science foundations. Whereas if you're more interested in things like liberal arts or organizational leadership, to name a couple that we offer, these are going to be things that you want to get that associate in arts, because they focus more on communication and interpersonal relations and the social sciences and the foreground of your degree. So then we can talk about what if we don't complete the associate's degree before we transfer and we just earn limited college credit, so basic general education courses, or a certificate prior to transferring to a four-year institution. So that allows us to have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to selecting our other courses for the remainder of our bachelor's degree. And then there's also potential for what's called a PLA, which is a prior learning assessment. What a prior learning assessment is, you could have completed your certificates, may be recognized by the accrediting body of those four-year institutions for college credit. If the accrediting body, like I said, if that recognizes it for college credit, all you need to do is submit those documents. If we have completed work within our career field that applies to a specific component of the curriculum, then you can also, within Lincoln College, complete a portfolio in order to submit that presentation for potential college credit based on life experience and general knowledge prior to entering the institution. So those are just some possible options when it comes to transferring. Next slide, please. So formats, options. As Nick mentioned, a couple of options for community college. This also works in the four-year institution. And when it comes to contemporary programs, these are the majority of the offerings for the way that your programs are offered. The AID program offers hybrid programs. Classes are one night a week in person, the rest is online. So you have that in-person component while also having the online component. Completely online degrees. I know that there are several institutions that offer these. Western offers a few, and National Louis University, just institutions within the area that have completely online components. You do have to be a very independent, self-sufficient student in order to be able to successfully complete a completely online degree, but it definitely is something that offers some convenience to being able to work with your own schedule. A majority of contemporary and non-traditional programs are offered in an accelerated path. So a lot of times what you hear is an accelerated degree, you think you can just fly on through it, which in some terms you can. But generally speaking, these are going to be accelerated courses more so than anything. For example, I know that a lot of community colleges will offer courses in 8 and 12-week formats. Those are considered accelerated courses, and the AID program offers 5-week baccalaureate granting courses. And so those are accelerated because it is 16 weeks worth of material in a 5-week format. They are a little bit more intense, so we encourage students to take less of them at a time, very similar to the way that grad programs will work once you move on if you plan to pursue a master's after you complete your 4-year degree. And as far as cohorted, that essentially means that you sometimes can get paired with several different students who are also along the same path with you. This doesn't always happen when you're in a hybrid online or accelerated program. But sometimes what happens with cohorts is you have to take the same classes all the way along through the program. If you do pop out, you can risk delaying if those type of courses that you need within the curriculum aren't offered until a later date. There are some programs that also offer cohorted weekend classes. So again, that's going to be a component of the hybrid in person on the weekends. Let's say every other weekend for 20 months, you're with the same people. And if you step out, it might throw you off a little bit, but not all programs are like that. So that's why we say not always. Next slide, please. All right, so how do we make this work? Let's talk about communicating and partnering. So when you are looking to transfer from a community college, when you are looking to continue on as a contemporary student, you want to especially make sure that you open the line of communication between your community college representative academic advisor, as well as the 4-year admissions counselor or academic advisor, so that you understand the requirements for both the associate level degree and the baccalaureate level degree. Oftentimes when you're planning through that, you can view required courses, and there are overlaps between programs, which is really awesome. And that's how we come to articulation agreements. So articulation agreements are catered agreements between institutions, between the community college and the 4-year university. So I'm going to have Ryan for a second step away from this slide so that we can actually look at an example of the ICC and Lincoln College's ABE program articulation agreement. So you can get a feel for what that might look like. And what we're looking at, so the purpose of this is to allow students from Illinois Central College to transfer to Lincoln College's ABE program. You'll note here that it's going to mention things like, and yes, this is very, very wordy. I do not expect you to read the entire thing, so don't feel like you have to. But essentially what this is saying is students with an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science can waive their general education requirements upon completion and enter straight into Lincoln College's ABE program. Also, when we're looking at, if we go to page 2, there is a small clause on here that says students with an Associate of Applied Science, you see where all of that junk, the chunk of block text has all the underlining. Associate of Applied Science degrees shall be considered to have met all Lincoln College general education requirements, provided that the student completes at least 21 hours of Illinois Articulation Initiative general education core curriculum. So if you have gen eds that are considered IAI, and essentially those are just courses that are required for your general education purposes, that across the state of Illinois, schools have agreed that yes, this course is considered this course at our institution. So those are things like Composition 1, Composition 2, speech, and college level math courses such as statistics. Unfortunately, college algebra is not a part of that, so it's definitely something you have to be keeping in mind. But if you have completed an Associate of Applied Science and the institution does not offer a capstone degree, like I was mentioning, that was specifically designed for an Associate of Applied Science, check to see if they have an articulation agreement with that community college and the institution which you would like to transfer to. If they do, it potentially might have this clause in there saying that as long as you've completed 21 credit hours of IAI Gen Eds and you've completed these 4 competencies, which are generally required for bachelor's degrees, then they may waive your Gen Eds. So it may be more transfer friendly. These are just some options to think about when you're transferring, making that process a little smoother for you so that you are more aware of what you have on there. So we'll go ahead and we'll go back to the PowerPoint and we'll talk about transfer a little bit more. Thanks, Ryan. Oh, and there was one sheet on there. Sorry, Ryan. Don't worry about going back to it. But on that articulation agreement, there's also a list and a chart of courses that ICC offers that Lincoln College also offers, and they end up being the same courses, and they're not general education courses. So a lot of institutions will also have that list as well. So make sure that you are checking. Another way to look at that is this website called Transferology. You can enter the courses at your community college and the courses that they end up transferring as at the transfer institution of your choice. And it will show you exactly what you should be taking in order to meet requirements at both institutions. So make sure that you understand where to access those resources. The best place to do that is to talk to, like I said, the academic advisors so that they can educate you about that. So just reach out, and that's the best way to get through. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ryan, and he's going to talk about traditional transfers and traditional college. So let's go, Ryan.
All right, thank you, Nissa. All right, so as she mentioned, we're going to take a turn looking at the traditional four-year university route. I'm going to try and tie in a little bit of everything that Nick and Nissa have already brought together. So for the first point, I'm going to be talking about some early planning stages for students. Communicating with those admissions counselors and community college representatives is crucial. So whether you're a high school student looking into going to a community college or straight to a university, or if you're currently a community college student looking to transfer to a university, communicating early is going to help you get everything set up, make sure that you have a smooth transfer, a smooth process, no matter what situation you're in. I mean, you should start planning no later than your senior year of high school or your second semester of your freshman year at the community college if you do plan to transfer. And I'm going to tell you about why this is important here in the next few slides. For starters, obtaining an understanding of the following is pretty crucial as well, such as your admission requirements, so you know what you're actually working towards. Making sure that you are able to be accepted based on like GPA requirements or specific grades and or test scores if you have to submit those. And then also looking at specific credits. Most universities, if you want to transfer to them, if you're already at a community college, would require you to have a select amount of transfer credits already earned. So making sure that you understand how many of those you need to have, what GPA from your college you need to have, or if your major requires you to have any specific general education courses completed before you can jump right into that major. And speaking of those courses, working with those advisors will help you in regards to taking transfer-friendly courses to ensure that smoother transfer. And then lastly, making sure you take a look at the layout of the college and any amenities that it has to warrant which institution is going to be the best fit for you. Such as looking at living arrangements, the community that the school is located in, anything socially wise, such as clubs and organizations, great things to take a look at when you're trying to determine your best fit. So let's dive into each of those a little bit more specifically as we move forward. For starters, being able to get an understanding of the expectations needed at the community college if you are finishing an associate's degree and the necessary requirements for the university that you want to transfer to are the things that are going to come about you working with those admissions counselors and community college representatives at the university and the community college level. Also, understanding the benefits of different types of degrees. These have already been brought up by Nick and Nissen. They've done a great job of doing that. But coming from the four-year university perspective, in addition to Nissa's points, associate in arts and science are the most transfer-friendly to a university. And associate and applied science are great to prepare you for the workforce, but they essentially may only count as elective credit at a university. It just depends on the university that you're looking into. So definitely being able to understand the different types of degrees and applying those to your college path is going to be very beneficial to you in early stages. Another good thing in regards to collaborating with other institutions is obtaining the resources that you need in order to make the decision to where you're going to go, whether you're a high school student or a community college student looking to take that next step. Some of those resources that you can look into are substitution lists. Substitution lists are things that, such as myself as a transfer counselor at a university, would use to help advise a current student on how their courses from whatever school they're at before would transfer to our institution. This is a common tool that's used among four-year universities, so that would be a very unique tool to help you pick and choose classes if you are going to go to a community college first, or if you're going to stay at a community college to finish your associate's degree before transferring. And another great advising tool that you could look into are advisor checklists. These advisor checklists are things that you can look at in regards to all the courses needed to complete the specific bachelor's degree that you are intending to complete, whether that's education, business, anything that you want to do. All of those majors have a checklist that shows exactly what courses need to be completed in order to get that degree. And getting your hands on this early in your college career would be very beneficial to you. Another resource we could look into, especially tying into some more of the contemporary students that Nissa was talking about, or convenient degree options for students that may work full-time, have families at home, things like that, are online degrees or degree completion programs. So these online degrees obviously are just more convenient in the sense that you can complete them all online, take your courses as you please, kind of go at your own pace depending on the institution and the class that you're taking. And then degree completion programs being very appealing to students that already have an associate's degree and or maybe work full-time, have taken courses way back in the past. They're considered contemporary, they have a family, they work full-time, and they want to just finish out their bachelor's degree, looking into what they have already completed and how that would fit into a degree completion program to make things a little bit more convenient and timely for them and their specific situations. Moving on to my next slide, some strategies for determining which path is going to be best for you. So communicating with your high school counselor, community college representative, university admissions counselors, or all of them from the start is going to be very beneficial for you. As soon as you get the chance to do that, communicating with one or all of these participants. So if you are a high school student or a community college student, clearly beneficial to communicate with all these parties involved and us four-year representatives to try to make that as accessible as possible for you. That's why we have things like table visits or college fairs, individual appointments, open houses, or personalized campus visits in order to meet and connect with the students. These events are not possible for us without the partnership that we have with your high school counselors to allow us to come to your schools, or the community college representatives that we work with to allow us to come and have table visits at their schools as well. So we all, as a community in the regards of higher education, encourage you to do your research, visit with community college representatives, four-year representatives, come visit those campuses as well, whether it's through an open house, personal campus visits, or maybe something virtual given the current state that we are living in at this time. I'm just trying to make sure that you do get all the information that you need to make that decision for you. And also, if you don't really know what to ask, here are some starter topics, some initial steps and opportunities that you can bring up when you're communicating with those individuals to help better determine your best fit, such as an application, determining whether you need a freshman or a transfer application, or if there is a difference, whether it's just one general application or not, making sure you're filling out the right paperwork. Looking into housing, such as if you're an incoming freshman, are there only select places that you can live, and making sure that you come to campus to determine which one you would rather be in and make sure that you fill out that housing application to get your top choice. And there's also transfer specific housing at most universities as well. So taking advantage of that and looking into what qualifies you as somebody that would get into transfer specific housing. Also bringing up scholarships. Scholarships is a great opportunity to help you pay for college. Being able to do that research early is going to be very beneficial to you. Lots of scholarship opportunities out there, but a lot of them do have different application processes. Some of them are different in regards to freshman versus transfer scholarships. You have to have a certain GPA or a certain test score, but making sure that you understand what those expectations are early in your process will help you along the way, especially if you know you have to hit a certain GPA before you can qualify for a specific scholarship that you want to apply for. Another thing we could look into are like guaranteed admissions programs. I know some universities have this as well, including my personal university, Eastern Illinois, where if a student were to register with us through our Panther Pledge program as early as their freshman year of college at the community college that they're at, this would allow them to complete their associate's degree, work with us counselors and their advisor from the community college to make sure they're taking those specific courses that they need to transfer, getting their associate's degree, and then guaranteeing their admission to EIU when they are finished with that. And I do know some other universities have programs like that as well. And then lastly, bringing up clubs and organizations. So making sure that when you are visiting that campus or looking into a specific university, that you understand all of the offer to you as a student. What's going to make things that much more fun for you to be there, the things that are going to want you to stay and continue to go to that university, making sure that you are involved, whether that's socially or maybe if you wanted to do Greek life or student government or sports, anything like that, just to make sure that they have what you want to meet your interests. So all of these are great things to consider when you don't really know what to ask when you're going up to speak to one of these representatives. All right, so that's going to bring us to the conclusion of our presentation. Just real quick to highlight some of the most important parts that were discussed between Nick, Nissa, and myself. We really want to see students start planning no later than their senior year of high school or your second semester of your freshman year of college to make sure you make those connections and establish those relationships with your community college reps or your four-year university admissions counselors. Communicating with those high school counselors, community college representatives, and four-year admissions counselors to start the process just to get the ball rolling, and then obtain all resources needed to determine your best fit, such as those advising tools, looking at how your courses would transfer, and then also doing basic research such as the application, housing, and scholarships, and looking into the amenities that the university has to offer, whichever ones that you are looking into. So at this time, we would love to open the floor for any questions that we might have from our audience members. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and Nick, Nissa, or myself would be happy to answer those for you. All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot of anything yet. I know we're getting close on our time. Isabella, if you're still there, I'm not sure if we need to be wrapping up now or if we need to fill in some questions here.
Yeah, definitely up to you. We have about 5 minutes. So if you have another topic you'd like to touch on quickly, feel free, or I'm happy to wrap things up now as well.
Thank you. You guys want to go over any of these fill-ins, or would you like to, you think we got all of them?
I think we got them. If any of you have any questions about each of our separate institutions, then feel free to reach out to us. If Ryan wants to pop it back to our introduction slide with our names and our institutions, that way you can find us. Then we can give you guys our names and maybe our email addresses so that you have those. And if you have questions about the programs being offered at each of our institutions, just let us know. Thanks, Ryan.
Sure. I shared it back to that screen, but it did not work. Here we go.
Okay. There we go. So like I said, if you guys want to just jot down our names, then we can make sure we get you our information as well.
And one last thing I'll just add for students out there watching is that please, like I said, no matter what school you go to, please just make sure that you always take advantage of the resources available at the colleges. It's really important. It really helps you out so you can make good academic progress and never pigeonhole yourself into going to only one institution or doing one program. The more proactive you are, the better in this process.
Absolutely. Well said. Thanks.
And then just to add with you, Nick, any counselors that are out there watching, aside from students, don't ever be afraid to reach out to anybody from a community college or a university, because all three of us working together will ensure the best route for that student. And making them do that for multiple institutions, is not like a personal recruitment thing. Just getting all of the universities that they are interested in involved would be great for any student that needs some help.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Isabella, for facilitating for us. And thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
Absolutely. And just to wrap things up a little bit here, I do want to let everyone know that when your window closes, you will see a very quick 4-question survey. So if you don't mind taking a second to fill that out, it's always great for us to get a little bit of feedback. Another reminder that there are additional sessions that you can check out at www.iacac.org, and that the session was recorded. And so if you need to return to anything like that contact information of our wonderful college representatives, you are able to do so through that recording as well. But a big thank you to all of you for joining us. We hope that you found the information helpful. A big thank you to our wonderful college representatives for sharing a little bit of their wisdom this afternoon too. But I hope that everyone has a great day, and we look forward to continuing to interact with you throughout your college search. So long.